Now I will tell you something that still amazes historians. How did Roman soldiers survive their campaigns? These methods are shocking. The Roman legion marched as if it had a second heart. The road was not an obstacle or a torment for them. It became a well-established ritual where every step had meaning and purpose. Their endurance amazed even their enemies, because it was not based on the strength of individual heroes, but on strict discipline and a sensible routine. We will trace how the legionnaires marched tens and hundreds of kilometers, maintaining order, health, and morale. Watch the video to the end, and you will learn how they actually managed to endure such journeys without unnecessary loss of strength and what helped them not to break down under the burden of daily trials. What if I told you that everything you believed about the iron will of the Romans is incomplete? The secret of their endurance was not hidden in a mythical superhuman, but in a system that removed unnecessary chaos from each participant in the march. Discipline on the march did not begin with shouting and threats, but with a clear sequence of actions repeated day after day. Getting up, gathering, checking, distributing loads, and forming a column became familiar links in a single chain. When habit takes over half of your worries, your legs feel lighter and your breathing evens out. Legionnaires did not wonder what to do in the morning, because the order was the same yesterday and would be the same tomorrow. The standard bearers went first, setting the direction, and the commanders monitored not heroism, but pace and distance. Short commands set the rhythm, and each group knew its place in the long column. Such repetitiveness seemed to lull anxiety and conserve attention. It was like walking a familiar path, where turns were recognized by smell and light. The load was distributed fairly and clearly. Some got the stakes for the camp, some got parts of the tents and common tools, and some got pots and flour. There was no one who walked empty or, conversely, bent under an unbearable load alone. Everyone understood that the total load was a matter of overall speed, not individual endurance. As a result, the column breathed evenly and did not break apart. The pace of the march was kept not at the limit, but within a working range. The legionnaires marched in blocks, alternating between walking and short stops at regular intervals. This was not a sign of weakness, but a smart approach to long distances. A fast start, like too frequent stops, wastes energy unnecessarily. The Romans knew how to find the golden mean and stick to it for hours. Strict order made the journey safer. The advanced groups checked forwards and ascents, the center carried the main loads, and the rear guard made sure that no one fell behind. Within the column, people changed places according to pre-agreed rules, which relieved the tension of monotony. Where other armies wasted minutes on arguments and fuss, the legion marched as one organism. This was not a miracle of character, but the result of simple and repeatable rules. The daily routine was not disrupted even when the weather threw up surprises. Rain or heat only changed the details: the time for assembly, the length of the crossing, the order of the groups. But the logic itself remained the same, and therefore all decisions were made quickly. In uncertainty, it is not the body that gets tired, but the mind, and the Roman system saved precisely mental energy. Hence the calmness in people's eyes, rare for military life. Discipline on the march was maintained by the example of the veterans. The new recruits saw not waving arms, but the quiet composure of those who had already traveled hundreds of miles. They adjusted to their rhythm, picked up small habits, learned to tie their belts and pack their loads so that nothing rubbed. This is how a marching culture is born, one in which no extra words are needed. Do as you have been taught, and the road will become shorter. Everyone knew the value of their place in the ranks, not because they feared punishment, but because they saw how the overall speed depended on individual accuracy. One step to the left, and your neighbor stumbles, one strap too loose, and the load hits your back with every bump. The Romans did not rely on inspiration, they relied on training. And training is the habit of doing things right even when you are tired. Finally, discipline made the hardest part easier: the start and end of the day. In the morning, there was no need to argue about where to start, and in the evening, there was no need to spend a long time deciding where and how to set up camp. Everyone knew their share of the work, and this eliminated the irritation that often eats away at a column from within. And when tension was replaced by predictability, strength seemed to return on its own. What do you think is more important on a long journey? Personal steel or clear, repeatable rules that remove unnecessary stress? We are very interested in hearing your point of view, so please write about it in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our videos. Are you ready to learn the truth about a diet that was not a soldier's feat, but simple nutritional engineering? Roman legionnaires did not count on miracles or seek delicacies. They took with them what would definitely not let them down over hundreds of kilometers. The basis was grain, because grain can be stored, does not spoil, gives strength, and is easy to transform. It was used to make porridge, flatbread, and hot soups, which kept up the pace of the day. The legion's pantry was based on predictability and simplicity. Grain was chosen not only for its nutritional value, but also for its obedience on the road. It could be ground on hand mills right in the camp, turning it into flour or groats. The flour was used to make simple flatbread on hot stones, and porridge was cooked in communal pots. This did not take much time and did not require complex equipment. A hot bowl at the end of the day made the legs lighter and the mind clearer. Salt and vinegar were not luxuries, but tools for maintaining vitality. Salt retained water in the body, and vinegar, diluted in water, turned into a tart drink that refreshed under the sun. This drink was sipped in small sips in the heat and quenched thirst better than plain water. Herbs were added to it whenever possible, making the taste more palatable and varied. Simple, affordable additives work better than complex recipes. Legionnaires got their protein from what the service and the local rhythm of the march provided. The diet included dried meat, cheese, sometimes legumes, and all this gave a lasting feeling of fullness. Nothing superfluous, but nothing empty either. Dish after dish filled the same slot of needs. Such a set did not delight the gourmet, but it delighted the muscles and the head. On a march, it is not the one who ate tastier who wins, but the one who ate right. The meal schedule was as strict as the drill schedule. Breakfast got them up and going, a midday snack kept up the pace, and a hot meal in the evening restored their strength. No one turned the camp into an endless feast, and no one drove themselves into unnecessary economy. The Romans sought a balance between speed and recovery, and this balance allowed them to go on day after day. Water was the resource they respected most. They took it in reserve, but used it wisely, checking sources and planning detours around difficult areas. The advanced groups looked for refill points, and the entire column adjusted its pace to them. No heroic sprints at the cost of dehydration, just calculation and common sense. In this logic, water was as much a part of discipline as pace and order. Lunch was not a celebration, it was a working break. No one stretched it out for the sake of cozy conversation, and no one refused it for the sake of ostentatious endurance. Cooking together created a calm background where hands were busy and conversation was short and to the point. This helped not only to satisfy hunger, but also to return the body to its normal rhythm. Hearty simplicity is better than sweet excess. Legionnaires took care of their dishes and tools just as they did their belts and sandals. A clean pot lid does not slip in your hand, a clean mug does not spoil the taste of water, and a clean spoon does not break halfway through. Things that are used every day require the same small amount of attention. It is this attention that distinguishes camping culture from disorder. When the household is in order, the journey goes smoothly. Supplies were replenished in advance and never allowed to run out. The route was planned so that supply points and markets did not seem like a gift from fate. Even in unfamiliar lands, opportunities for exchange and purchase were sought if it was part of the plan. The system deprived chance of the right to control the journey. The fewer surprises in food and water, the more strength in the legs. What do you think has a greater impact on a long journey? The taste of a dish or its predictable nutritional value multiplied by a clear routine? And by the way, in the next chapter, we will take a look at the hidden engine of Roman endurance, how the roads and carts themselves helped the body to keep going without fail. Want to know how a simple cart and a silent mule turned hundreds of kilometers into a manageable task? What you've never seen before, The Romans treated the road not as an obstacle course, but as a tool that obeyed rules. Their routes were calculated, their crossings were known in advance, and their pace was linked to the quality of the road surface. Where mud slowed others down, smooth embankments and bridges kept the Romans moving steadily. This did not eliminate fatigue, but it did eliminate unnecessary losses. Road markers transformed distance from an abstraction into an understandable calculation. Stone pillars indicated how much was left, and this simple fact gave them patience. When the goal is measurable, the desire to speed up at any cost recedes. The Romans did not compete with the horizon. They simply divided the horizon into equal segments, and each segment was more real than any hope. The carts were not a hindrance. They were part of the rhythm. The mules did not walk as they pleased, but in a predetermined order, and their load was coordinated with the speed of the infantry. The load was distributed so that nothing protruded or touched neighbors in narrow sections. Aligning these details saved tens of minutes on each leg of the journey. When a cart does not get stuck, the column does not fall apart. Bridges and crossings were included in the daily plan in advance. If they had to cross fords, the column prepared straps, fastenings, and a change of shoes in advance. If the road ran along a rocky path, they adjusted their stride length and the frequency of short stops. The Romans controlled the details because details control speed, and this made their pace not faster, but more reliable. Overnight stops were chosen not for their romantic views, but for a combination of convenience and safety. A flat place, access to water, the ability to set up even rows and mark out passages between them. All these boring requirements made the evening go faster and the morning shorter. When the camp is set up at the usual time, tomorrow begins without unnecessary fuss. This means that the road will once again be an ally. Road repairs were seen as a continuation of the march. Stones were placed where wheels left ruts, and branches were removed where they could knock off sandals. Small jobs were divided among groups, and the column did not stand idle waiting for a miracle. The Romans did not curse the road. They brought it up to working condition. Such thriftiness pays off in speed. Communication between the parts of the column was maintained through clear signals and people who knew the area. No guesswork or shouting at random, just a quick transfer of the necessary information. This helped to avoid accordioning when the head of the column had already stopped, but the tail was still moving. The smoother the movement, the fewer false starts. The melody of the journey sounds better when the notes are not mixed up. Even the rest of the road was part of their logic. The road breathes when people walk on it and collapses when unnecessary hustle and bustle is dragged along it. The Romans tried not to tear up the pavement with heavy, meaningless dragging and did not overload one section beyond measure. They took care of what served them, and their careful attitude toward the road resulted in less wear and tear on their feet. What was unusual was that the Romans did not look for magic tricks. They simply made the road part of their discipline, part of their nutrition, part of their rest. Everything was connected, and therefore unnecessary difficulties disappeared. This is where their secret of endurance lies, which may not seem impressive, but works every day. If you are interested in such invisible mechanisms of history, check out our other episodes on the channel, where we calmly analyze how the power of large systems works. Are you ready for the shocking truth about training that had no place for senseless exhaustion? The Romans did not force the body to break down. They taught it to repeat the same movement without unnecessary energy loss. Endurance was born not on the edge but close to it, where muscles and ligaments had time to get used to it. Regular transitions, alternating rhythms, and careful loads did their job. Steps became more economical, breathing quieter, and the back calmer. Training began with shoes and straps because they are what transfer the load to the body. A well-fitted belt does not cut into the skin and does not require constant adjustments. Sandals hold the foot so that stones do not cause the jaws to clench. Small details eliminate microscopic losses of strength, which turn into a whole river over the course of a day. The Romans respected this mathematics. Next is working on your breathing when going uphill and downhill. On the uphill sections, the stride became slightly shorter, but the frequency remained steady. On descents, they controlled their support so as not to break through their knees and tire faster than necessary. These habits were reinforced by repetition, not by ostentatious jerks. The body memorized the correct movement pattern. The load on the shoulders and lower back was distributed by carefully arranging the load. Heavy items were placed closer to the back, soft items closer to the shoulders, and protruding items to the side where they would not rub. The straps were crossed so as not to rub the fabric of the tunic. As a result, the load no longer pulled at one point, but was distributed throughout the body. And the person walked not fighting with the bag, but with even support. The warm-up did not look like a separate activity. It was woven into the first hour of the journey. The muscles gradually came into play, and the joints woke up at an even pace. This saved time and gave the body a gentle start. In the middle of the day, the test movement was repeated and the straps and knots were checked. Everything unnecessary was removed and everything weak was tightened. The stretching was simple and short. A few movements for the hips, shins, and shoulders, a short workout for the lower back. Not for flexibility's sake, but for a comfortable stride. Enough so as not to pull a muscle on the first bump and lose rhythm. The Romans did not chase records and they chased stability. Sleep was also part of the training. A small but consistent bedtime ritual signaled to the body to shut down. A flat place and a blanket replaced the bed. But more important was the tranquility of familiar actions. When the body recognizes familiar steps, it falls asleep faster. And the morning begins not with internal chaos, but with a clear head. Meals after a long stretch were chosen for recovery. Hot porridge and a tart drink restored moisture and strength, not just pampered the taste buds. Nothing superfluous, nothing empty, only what helps you walk again tomorrow. This is the wisdom of hiking training. It does not end with the last step of the day. Do you think it is possible to train yourself without overexertion if you know exactly what rhythm suits your body? In the next chapter, we will look at the things that a legionnaire carried every day and how the way the equipment was packed reduced fatigue better than any loud promises. Want to know which items really made the journey shorter and which ones just got in the way? A day of marching begins with the things we pick up and ends with them. Roman legionnaires did not carry anything extra because extra weight quickly becomes a burden. Items were divided into shared and personal, and this division saved the strength of the entire column. Shared items were distributed among several people, and personal items were tailored to the habits of the owner. The resulting order did not require constant control. Sandals were not a symbol, but a tool. The leather was dried properly, the straps were checked every evening, and wear and tear was monitored with the eyes and fingers. The soles were replaced before they became a problem, so the feet felt secure. The right footwear does not make your steps faster, it makes them more stable. Over long distances, that is what speed is all about. The tunic and cloak served not only as clothing, but also as part of the packing. The cloak could become a bedding, a windbreak, and simple protection for belongings. It was folded so that it did not press on one point and did not move on bumps. Clothing ceased to be a thing and became part of a system. In this system, every little thing worked toward the common goal. The pot and mug were kept close at hand but did not rattle around. They were placed so that they could be reached when needed, but forgotten when walking. When objects knock and clatter, it is not so much the body that gets tired as the mind. Sound, friction, and constant adjustments steal attention, and attention steals energy. The Romans eliminated these leaks. Camping tools were kept in the same place every day. Hands remember where things are and don't ask unnecessary questions. When evening comes, time is the most precious currency, and every minute spent searching is too costly. Storing answers the question, where, faster than thought. This creates the feeling that the camp sets itself up. Food supplies were stored in thick bags that were easy to divide and carry. Dry foods respect dryness, and this simple rule was strictly adhered to. The fewer surprises in food, the better the body works. No need for complicated care, just neatness. And neatness is also a strength. If you had to walk in the rain, you protected your belongings with layers. First, the things that were most sensitive to moisture, then the things that could survive a wet hour. Protection was distributed so that one leak would not ruin the whole day. The Romans did not believe in forever waterproof. They believed in sensible duplication. This eliminated risk and added peace of mind. Those who walked in front carried fewer bulky items, but had more responsibility for the journey. Those in the middle picked up the general load, thereby evening out the line of movement. This is not sacrifice. It is simply a calculation for stability. When everyone knows their share, the column does not collapse in narrow places. There is no heroism in this, there is order. Even rest for the belongings was provided for. In the evening, they were washed, dried, strapped up, and raincoats were hung up. In the morning, everything was turned back into compact forms. The belongings responded to the person in the same way that he responded to them, with regular care. And then they served silently without demanding attention at every step. Are you ready for the shocking truth about how legionnaires beat the heat and wind without miracles or overexertion? The Romans did not challenge the elements. They took them into account and adjusted every detail to suit themselves. On a hot day, the column would cover the longest distance in the morning, before the stones became too hot to walk on. In the midday heat, they would take shorter steps and make more frequent stops in the shade. By evening, they would pick up the pace again when the air allowed them to breathe more easily. The sun not only burned the skin, it also dried up attention and made steps inaccurate. Therefore, in open areas, people walked closer together so as not to break up into small groups. They folded their raincoats so that they covered their necks and shoulders without hindering their arms. They drank a mixture of water and vinegar in small sips, without waiting until they were very thirsty. Their bodies received moisture before they sent out an alarm signal. Rain was not considered an enemy. It was simply given rules. On clay paths, the interval was widened so as not to slide nose to nose. Belts were tightened more often because wet fabric stretches and starts to rub. Raincoats were hung so that water would not drip inside the shoes, but would run off the edges. During breaks, they took off their sandals and dried the insoles without wasting time on conversation. The wind was a tricky companion on the road because it changed the load imperceptibly. Against the wind, we took shorter and more frequent steps so as not to waste energy. With the wind at our backs, we protected our shoulders and backs, not allowing our packs to swing around. We fastened our raincoats so that they would not turn into sails. Any shaking of our belongings took away our strength faster than it seemed. The ascents taught patience. The descents taught caution. On the ascent, the main task was to maintain the pace and not accelerate in the first few meters. On the descent, you must not allow your feet to hit the ground with your heels. Otherwise, fatigue will set in prematurely. In these places, the column stretched only as far as was safe for breathing. Signals were given briefly so as not to drown out attention with noise. Rocky areas required a different approach to speed. Here it was not minutes that mattered, but the safety of feet and straps. Sandals were checked more often, and steps were taken more gently without hammering the ankles. The column moved like water, filling the space without unnecessary jerks. Stability became the best way to save time. The forest provided shade, but demanded discipline. In narrow passages, blades of grass and branches caught on belts and the edges of raincoats. Therefore, in such places, belongings were held closer to the body and hands were kept slightly ahead. The head of the column warned in advance about roots and cuts in the ground. Each step became shorter, but more confident. The plain seemed simple only to the inexperienced. The long, monotonous line lulled attention, and the column could float in a zigzag. Here, rhythm and short checks of the formation saved the day. At set intervals, people changed places so that their eyes did not stick to one point. An even pace is the ability to keep your head alert, not just your legs strong. The cold did not require heroism, but the right sequence of actions. First movement, then a warm drink, then a layer of clothing to retain the heat that had already been generated. In such weather, a raincoat became not a shield from the rain, but a cover for one's own strength. The main thing was not to sweat excessively, otherwise the cold would hit twice as hard when you stopped. The Romans guarded warmth as strictly as they did water. What is more important in the fight against the elements on a long journey? Speed at any cost, or the ability to change your pace according to the weather and terrain? In the next chapter, you will learn how the evening camp turned the chaos of a tiring day into order, and why a well-planned stop saved half a day of the next journey. The camp did not begin with bonfires, but with choosing a location. You need a flat area where the rows will be straight and the passages clear. Water should be nearby, but not underfoot, so that dampness does not steal heat at night. The soil had to be dense enough to hold the pegs and not give way underfoot. When these conditions were met, the rest went like clockwork. The camp plan was repeated day after day. The rows were placed parallel, leaving passages of equal width. Common areas were kept in the center so that they were equally close from all sides. The entrances were oriented so that the morning gathering would be short. This repetitive pattern made the evening quick and predictable. The work was divided in advance, not on the fly. Some set up shelters, others prepared water, and still others prepared dinner. Tools were where they were needed in a minute, not an hour. No one stood idle, and no one ran off in all directions at once. When roles are clear, fatigue does not turn into fuss. The shelters were assembled without unnecessary gestures. The tarps were stretched evenly so that water would run off the edges and not collect in puddles. The pegs were driven in at an angle that held the fabric in place and prevented it from tearing in gusts of wind. The ropes were laid out so that no one would trip over them when leaving at night. Everything was simple, but this simplicity saved energy. The communal kitchen was the heart of the evening ritual. The fire was lit where the smoke did not blow in people's faces and did not interfere with putting things away. The cauldrons were placed on a stable stand so as not to lose heat into the void. Hot food was served when the shelters were ready and shoes were off. First the house, then the table. That way the body rests faster. Water was the lifeblood of the camp. A supply was made for the morning so that there was no need to run around with buckets before getting up. The vessels were kept closed to protect them from dust and accidental dirt. The place for water was chosen so that not all the paths led to it at once. The morning hour was gained in the evening when this was thought of. Drying clothes was part of the mandatory routine. Raincoats were hung out in the wind, but not in the open rain, so that the fabric could air out and not become heavier. Sandals were turned upside down and wiped dry without trying to dry them over a fire, which damages the leather. Any moisture removed in the evening saves an hour in the morning. Dry things are easier to carry. Night watches were not just about alertness. They were part of the rhythm. Those on duty monitored the fire, water, and general silence. Information was conveyed in short steps, without shouting or unnecessary signals. When all is quiet at night, the morning begins without unnecessary heaviness. A good night's sleep is also part of the march. Cleaning up ended the day as clearly as lining up began the next. The remains of the coals were extinguished and sprinkled with water so that in the morning there would be no need to look for water for this trifle. Garbage was collected in one place, leaving it underfoot. Tools were returned to their usual places. The camp exhaled along with the people. The morning was a continuation of the evening, not a rush for the sake of rushing. From top to bottom, left to right, from shelter to road bag, that's how the hands remember the order. Food and water are already ready, and no one is running around shouting, "Where's my belt?" The Legion sets out on the road without unnecessary disruptions. This simple picture hides the economy of forces over hundreds of kilometers. Health on a hike is maintained not by rare tricks, but by daily little things. Feet are washed, dried, and rubbed with oil without waiting for unpleasant surprises. Nails are trimmed evenly so that they do not catch on the edge of the sandal. Fabric or bandaged socks are changed in time without accumulating moisture for the whole day. These things are boring, but they are what make walking easy. Soldiers quickly realize that the most important habits are those that are repeated every day. Calluses and abrasions did not appear from long marches, but from neglecting the little things. Washing your feet was not a ritual, but a way to maintain combat readiness. After a march, feet were immersed in warm water with salt or ash added to relieve fatigue and disinfect small cracks. Then they were thoroughly dried, sometimes even fanned with wind or held at a distance from a fire. Oil rubbed into the skin made it soft but strong, like the leather of a belt that does not tear under load. Nails were cut short and even, without sharp corners. Even a small hangnail could turn into a boil on a dusty road. Roman legionaries, Vikings, and World War II infantrymen knew the same rule. Taking care of your feet means taking care of your march. Changing bandages and socks on time was considered a matter of discipline, not comfort. Moisture is the main enemy of the foot because where there is moisture, there is friction, and where there is friction, there is pain. Clean, dry feet are not a luxury, they are a continuation of the journey. Skin loves cleanliness as much as belts love durability. After a day's march, the body was wiped with a cloth dampened with warm water and vinegar or salt. This removed sweat, dust, and salt that had accumulated during the day. Such care prevented irritation, rashes, and inflammation. The shoulders, lower back, and neck, everything that carried the load, required attention. A few minutes of warm-up exercises restored mobility and improved blood flow. The day was removed from the body like a cloak from the back, calmly and without haste. Sleep then became not just rest, but true recovery. Food on a hike is not just fuel, but medicine. Hot porridge, even the simplest, restored strength better than sweets or meat in a hurry. Thick soup warmed, satisfied, and retained water in the body. Salt and vinegar were included in the diet for a reason. They helped maintain fluid balance and prevented dehydration. Herbs and spices, if available, not only improved the taste, but also lifted the spirits. Protein foods, meat, legumes, grains, supported the muscles without weighing down the stomach. Health on the march was based not on rare treats, but on stability and moderation. Breathing is an invisible part of endurance. Experienced warriors and travelers knew that the rhythm of breathing and walking should coincide. On a sense, they counted their steps and breaths so as not to tire themselves out prematurely. On the plains, they allowed themselves a long exhalation to release tension. On descents, they made sure not to tense their chest and shoulders. Otherwise, by the end of the day, they would have pain in their neck and the back of their head. Air is not just oxygen, it is part of discipline. When breathing is even, thoughts are clearer, movements are more precise, and the heart works without strain. The arms and back maintain the balance of the hike. The load was changed from shoulder to shoulder, not on a whim, but according to a schedule. Prolonged asymmetry leads to curvature, pain, and loss of strength. The straps were tightened equally, without excessive pressure, so as not to constrict the blood vessels. The load was distributed symmetrically so that the body's axis remained straight. Even if the bag was light, an incorrect position quickly caused fatigue. These simple measures saved us from invisible fatigue, which accumulates quietly and destroys faster than hunger. Water is not only a thirst quencher, but also a tool for recovery. During breaks, soldiers wet their faces, wrists, and necks to cool down and clear their heads. In the heat, they drank often and in small amounts without waiting for their throats to dry out. In the cold, on the contrary, they reached for a mug of warm drink to maintain circulation and prevent the body from cooling down from the inside. Water loss is imperceptible, but its effects are immediately felt: fatigue, irritation, weakness. Therefore, consistent hydration meant a consistent day, without slumps or dizziness. Sleep is the body's main ally. It is based on 3 pillars: silence, dryness, and warmth. Silence was ensured by the camp rules. Talking was prohibited after dark, and those on duty moved softly and quietly. Dryness depended on the order of things. Wet things were kept separately, dry things were kept close at hand. Warmth was created not only by clothing, but also by breathing. If drafts were prevented, even a thin raincoat could retain heat. When these 3 things came together, sleep became a true healing, and the morning was a good one. Preventing friction is the law of any road. Where skin rubs, they did not wait for pain to appear. Problem areas were known in advance: heels, shoulders, inner thighs, lower back. They were lubricated with oil, covered with cloth, and rubbed with grease. Belts were checked to ensure there were no folds, steps, or stiff seams. Footwear was fitted precisely, without relying on luck. After all, friction does not kill, but it wears you down. And on a hike, it is worse than a wound. It steals your strength imperceptibly. Hands are the main tool in camp. Without them, you can't cook porridge, pull up a tarp, or assemble weapons. Therefore, they were cared for no less than the feet. Calluses were not considered a sign of valor. They were treated. The skin was softened with grease and covered with a bandage or cloth to prevent it from cracking. The sharp edges of axes and shovels were checked every day to avoid cutting the palms. During long periods of work, gloves were worn or the hands were wrapped with straps. This is how the habit of careful strength developed. When you do a lot but do not harm yourself. The health of a legionnaire, traveler, or soldier is not one big secret, but 100 small actions. They come together to form a system where the body becomes a reliable tool rather than a hindrance. These habits work together like a machine or a column, evenly, smoothly, without jerks. Their strength lies in repetition and simplicity, not in rare miracles. This is how a person walks hundreds of kilometers without breaking down or complaining, and greets each morning with the same body that can be trusted. A manageable task is always within reach, if the body's its own ally. Morale on a hike does not appear out of thin air. It is built in the same way as a road or a camp. People know the routine and do not waste energy on guesswork. Commands are short, clear, and repeatable. The ranks stand straight, and this creates a feeling that the ground beneath their feet is firmer. The psyche loves clarity no less than muscles love rest. Every evening, a common task brings people together. Some cook, some repair straps, some dry clothes, and everyone sees the common result. Fatigue, divided among the work, becomes easier to bear. There is no pomp in such rituals, only calmness and meaning. This is food for the fighting spirit. The elders serve as an example without loud words. They show how to pack your load so that it doesn't live its own life. They explain where to save a step and where it's better to take a wider stride. The young learn these little things and feel more confident. Confidence is silence in the mind. Order in things breeds order in thoughts. When every morning begins the same way, irritation does not have time to grow. A person does not argue with reality, he just does his job. This does not make the day shorter, but it makes it easier. Ease is the resource of endurance. Fairness in the distribution of the load is more important than it seems. No one feels superfluous, and no one works like a dog for two people endlessly. Such a balanced load removes hidden resentment, which eats away at strength. In a column where everyone understands why it is so, the step is easier. Transparency heals better than promises. Praise is quieter than shouting, but it carries further. When a commander notes neatness or a quick camp, people remember not the word, but the respect. Respect does not require unnecessary proof. It accumulates in small things. On the road, this reserve works like a hidden reserve. In difficult moments, it comes to the rescue. Shared habits create a feeling of home without walls. A cup is placed in the same place, a raincoat is folded in the same way, a knot is tied in the same way. These repetitions create a comfort that does not require furniture. A person carries order with them and calms down. A calm person moves on. Humor on a hike is not about loud jokes, but about friendly glances. A short smile at the right moment relieves tension more than a long speech. Excess tension goes away and does not return. On a long road, every little thing like this is a kilometer without extra effort. Lightness is also discipline. Silence is not emptiness, but rest for the mind. A long stretch can be covered almost without words, and this will be the best medicine for attention. In silence, your steps become louder, your breathing more even, and your thoughts calmer. This is how inner strength is accumulated, which does not require external support. The Romans were famous for this strength. Fighting spirit does not oppose discipline, it feeds on it. The clearer the day, the more confident the person, the fairer the load, the calmer the eyes. The shorter the commands, the quieter the mind. From this silence comes endurance, which makes hundreds of kilometers possible. Pace is the invisible commander of the column. It keeps people together and prevents them from scattering along the road. Too fast and the tail will start to break away. Too slow and the head will lose focus. The right pace is a step that can be repeated hundreds of times without fail. It is cherished like water. Signals make the pace audible. A gesture, a raised hand, a short word, and the column changes its rhythm without fuss. Turns and narrowings in the road are indicated in advance so that everyone has time to adjust. A mistake in the first two rows is multiplied at the rear, so the head of the column is doubly responsible. Here, accuracy is more important than speed. Rotating places in the column relieves hidden fatigue. Those who walked in the open wind move closer to the center. Those who rested in the shade of the formation move forward on difficult sections. No one burns out all day in one place. Fair change, fair speed. Stride length is not a whim, but a tool. It is shorter on climbs, more even on flat terrain, and softer on descents. The column maintains this geometry like a melody, and does not brake it for the sake of a few minutes. This eliminates the acceleration and braking on each segment. Energy expenditure becomes predictable. Rest stops are not random. They have a logic. They appear before people start to fall apart one by one. A short rest is subject to time, not mood. Water is replenished according to plan, not complaints. This approach seems strict, but it is caring. The wagon train listens to the same music as the infantry. The wagons do not live their own lives. They are integrated into the rhythm of the column. Narrow passages are passed with a predetermined order. There are no useless stops that turn into traffic jams. The road rewards respect. The connection between the parts is not only voice, but also gaze. Information is transmitted in short bursts that do not overwhelm people with a flood of words. The important is separated from the secondary, and attention does not tire. When everyone understands the same thing, the pace becomes common. A common pace is always easier. Mistakes are corrected immediately without leaving them for later. If your belt is loose, tighten it now. If your raincoat is flapping, rearrange it. If your mug is rattling, secure it. Every small adjustment is one less thing to worry about at the end of a long day. By the end of the day, the difference is clear to everyone. This is the victory of pace. The end of the day is met without a rush. The last 100 steps are taken as evenly as the first 100 in the morning. The head and body are allowed to finish the journey gently, not in a race. This way, the evening camp begins without fuss, and the next morning will be even smoother. A pace that is respected returns respect. The music of the road is simple: step, breath, look ahead. The Romans learned to play it without false notes, and that is why their marches seem endlessly steady. There are no loud solos in this music, but there is precise harmony. Harmony leads the column through months of travel. Where there is harmony, there is strength. We have seen that the endurance of the Roman legion is not a secret gift, but the sum of simple, repetitive actions. The road becomes an ally when pace, water, camp, and packing work as one system. Health is maintained by rituals, and morale is nourished by silence and justice. It is in these small things that the strength that carries an army across continents lies hidden. What do you think about the topic of Roman military life? And which element did you find most important for yourself? Discipline, nutrition, or pace? Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new analyses of the hidden mechanisms of the past.